Movie fans come up with their own theories all the time, and often those theories can potentially link unrelated franchises to one another. For example, there's a theory that suggests Home Alone's Kevin McAllister grew up to be the Jigsaw Killer in Saw, and the theory that was initially conceived by fans about all of Pixar's movies taking place in the same universe actually turned out to be true. But there are also theories that link live-action movies to animated ones, and that's what this video is all about. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to keep up to date with all of our great new videos. And during the video, can you count the number of times Quasimodo appears? Stick around until the end to find out if you counted correctly. The MCU and Frozen. Although they're both owned by Disney, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Frozen seem quite literally worlds apart. But this theory suggests that the universes in which they take place are actually one and the same. The link comes in the form of the MCU's frost giants of Jotunheim, who invaded Earth to conquer and pillage back in the 10th century. The Asgardians eventually drove them back, and they never returned. However, while they were on Earth, some of the more human-looking invaders could have got close to some of Earth's females, resulting in some crossbreeds being born into the human population after the frost giants departed. Fast forward to around 1840, again in Norway. The half-breeds blended into society and their DNA integrated so well that it became almost impossible to distinguish a descendant of a frost giant and a normal human. That is, unless two descendants had children with one another. With that higher proportion of frost giant DNA, the child might have developed the abilities of a frost giant, such as ice manipulation. This theory suggests that Elsa and Anna's parents are the descendants of those human frost giant hybrids, hence their children's powers. You're probably thinking that Anna doesn't have powers, but she definitely does. While she lacks ice manipulation abilities, she is quite clearly abnormally strong. At the beginning of Frozen, Anna throws a bust halfway across the room by accident. She also pulled back a tree to hit the marshmallow and was even able to knock down a wolf with one swing of Kristoff's lute. And to explain why nobody commented on this in the movie, Odin most likely cast a spell erasing all record of the frost giant invasion, using a similar spell to the one he cast on Loki to hide any of the half-breeds. Interesting, huh?
You should expect an increase in body hair, especially on your face, chest, armpits, and...
Thank you! That's enough!
The MCU and Big Hero 6. This one makes a little more sense than Frozen, as Big Hero 6 is a Marvel property with a comic book series to boot. But the fact that the movie is animated would suggest, at face value at least, that it's not in the MCU. In the 2014 movie, Tadashi, brother of the main character Hiro, was killed off in a fire at a university. However, it is rumored that he actually survived and will appear in the sequel, perhaps as Sunfire, a character from X-Men lore, who joins the Big Hero 6 in the comics but gets possessed and becomes a villain to the team. So what does Tadashi have to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, in 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron, when Tony Stark was choosing a new AI for his armor, after Jarvis was used to inhabit the newly created Vision, there was one label amongst those potential AIs that said Tadashi. As a result, some fans are speculating the possibility of seeing a Big Hero 6 character in future Avengers or Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. In fact, when listing future Marvel movies, Stan Lee will regularly mention the Big Hero 6 sequel in the same breath as those upcoming movies in the MCU. With Sunfire being predominantly an X-Men character in the comic books, and Disney now owning the previously Fox-owned X-Men characters for movie purposes, this theory is even more possible than it was when it was first conceived.
Genie of the Lamp! Right here, direct from the lamp, right here for your very much wish fulfillment.
The Jungle Book and Aladdin. But this particular theory suggests that an animated Disney movie takes place in the same universe as a certain live-action Disney film. 2016's The Jungle Book has a number of Easter eggs that potentially link it to Disney's previous movies, but in this instance, we're talking about 1992's Aladdin. The link comes in many forms, including a number of trinkets amongst the treasure in King Louis's temple. But the one we're referring to is the genie's lamp. It's barely visible, to be honest, but that unmistakable shape is definitely there. It seems a bit strange, however, that Louis managed to get his hands on something so valuable and powerful, given that he clearly mustn't know what it even is. You know, given that he hasn't used it to grant himself 3 wishes.
3. 1, 2, 3.
Of course, there's a live-action version of Aladdin coming in 2019 with Mena Massoud in the titular role, so it could be argued that this Easter egg links Jungle Book to that version of the movie, but the 2019 movie was 6 months away from being announced at that point.
Stay here. I'll be back.
I, Robot, Terminator, The Matrix, and Robots. We now move away from Disney movies for a couple of entries. First, to focus on an animated movie that is theorized to link to no less than 3 live-action films. And the movie in question is 2005's Robots. The theory suggests that it is set in the same continuity as 2004's I, Robot, the Terminator franchise, and the Matrix trilogy, all of which are themselves apparently unrelated to one another.
Oh, you want to talk about that?
To explain further, I, Robot sees the rise of machine intelligence and the first motive to take over, which is to protect humanity from itself. The Terminator series chronicles the original struggle between the humans and machines. The Matrix then depicts the last remnants of humanity and the final stage of the machine-human relationship before the machines decided to be rid of humanity once and for all. And then finally, animated offering Robots depicts life after humanity and how the machines end up repeating the mistakes of the humans that they overthrew. Kind of how the animals did in George Orwell's classic novel Animal Farm. It's an extremely interesting theory and one that makes a little bit of sense, but it's also incredibly convoluted. What do you think of this one? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Rango. 2011's Rango makes a very bold choice by cohabitating not with a child-friendly movie, but with an extremely adult cult film built around a drug binge in the form of 1998's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Johnny Depp plays the lead character Raoul Duke in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and voices the titular character in Rango, and Duke clearly shares a number of characteristics with the cartoon lizard. More importantly, however, in a scene in Rango, the two characters actually meet when Rango lands on the windshield of Duke's car. The pair lock eyes before the lizard gets the windshield wiper, which isn't exactly a happy ending for the character. It's a very small link, but it really is all that's required to make this theory very feasible.
Don't talk about my father that way.
Yeah, don't talk about her father that way.
Beauty and the Beast and the Hunchback of Notre Dame. We already know that Disney's animated movies are interlinked. Heck, we're practically turning blue in the face through repeating it so often. But this theory suggests that another live-action Disney movie connects to one of its animated siblings. In 2017's live-action Beauty and the Beast, one of the most emotional scenes in the movie occurs when the Beast takes Belle to the home her father fled from when her mother was dying of the plague. As the scene closes in on the tiny Parisian apartment, you can clearly see Notre Dame Cathedral in the distance, meaning the movie happens in the same world as 1996's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It happens very quickly, but fans latched onto it immediately, as they tend to do. As well as confirming that Beauty and the Beast and The Hunchback of Notre Dame take place in the same world, the inclusion of the instantly recognizable landmark also as good as confirms that Belle's appearance in the animated Hunchback movie was no accident. The famous Easter egg can be seen in a screenshot from the movie, in which you can clearly see her walking through the streets of Paris with her eyes firmly focused on a book.
Hey, Uncle Scar, when I'm king, what'll that make you?
A monkey's uncle.
The Planet of the Apes and the Lion King. This theory suggests that all of the modern Planet of the Apes movies take place in the same timeline as an animated Disney classic in the form of 1994's The Lion King. It says that The Lion King is set in the future, when apes have long since taken over from humans and other animals have also gained power, almost rising to the same level as the apes. It's pretty plausible too. The Lion King has no humans in it whatsoever, but all the animals speak English, and given that they also make normal animal noises, it's fair to say that it isn't simply being translated into English.
Well, forgive me for not leaping for joy. Bad back, you know.
The animals in the movie could very easily have contracted the same virus that caused the apes in Planet of the Apes to become so intelligent. Moreover, in spite of there being no humans in The Lion King, the animals in the movie make a number of references to human culture. Zazu tells Scar that he would make an excellent throw rug, and Pumbaa has a very clear idea of what stars are, for example. And look at Rafiki. In spite of the fact that he is old and much weaker than animals like lions and elephants, as a primate he still holds a position of enormous power in the animal kingdom.
If I weren't real, could I do this?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Space Jam. We're cheating a bit with this one, as the two movies we're talking about are actually both live action and animated, but hey, it still counts. And there's a fairly convincing case for them sharing the same universe. For starters, the two movies obviously share a number of characters in the form of the Looney Tunes bunch, and both movies reveal that cartoon characters are actually actors in their respective worlds. But there's more to it than that. After the debacle that took place between the likes of Roger Rabbit, Bob Hoskins' Eddie Valiant, and Christopher Lloyd's Judge Doom, it would make sense that Toons would decide that it was best to leave humans alone, which is why they no longer wander around in public in Space Jam, which took place some 50 years after the 1940 setting of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Moreover, while there are no Disney characters in Space Jam, the Looney Tunes characters are still aware of them, as Bugs Bunny clearly refers to Mickey Mouse in the movie. And given that Who Framed Roger Rabbit is the only movie in history where Disney and Looney Tunes characters share screen time, that's the only way they could possibly know about them. All of Tim Burton's movies. This is by far the most intricate and detailed theory on the list, and quite frankly, it would be absolutely impossible to explain it in its full glory, as it could quite easily provide the material for a video all by itself, but we'll give you the gist. Basically, it suggests that all of Tim Burton's movies, both live action and animated, take place in the same universe. It starts with Abercrombie, the dog from 1982's stop-motion short, Vincent. The theory says Vincent's mom gave Abercrombie away to save him from Vincent's experiments, and he ended up being adopted by Victor from 2012's Frankenweenie and renamed Sparky. Vincent also dug up a woman that he believed to be his wife. And this theory suggests that said woman moved onto the spirit world of Halloween Town in 1993's The Nightmare Before Christmas and renamed herself Sally. It also suggests that the aforementioned Sparky died and moved on to that same spirit world, becoming Jack Skellington's dog, Zero. And now come the live-action movies. For example, it suggested that Elsa Van Helsing from Frankenweenie was given up for adoption and grew into Lydia Dietz, Delia and Charles's daughter from 1989's Beetlejuice. There's an additional theory that Weird Girl from Frankenweenie was also given up for adoption and became Kim from 1990's Edward Scissorhands. There are a bunch of other theories within this larger theory-verse, and you can easily look them up online, but as we stated before, it would take us too long to go through them all here. Surely the ones we've discussed are enough to convince you though, right? And if not, let us know if we should make a whole video about it, and we'll do it. And that's the end of our video. Did you enjoy it? Do you know of any theories linking animated movies to live-action movies? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great videos just like this one. Oh, and the number of times Quasimodo appeared was, well, we hope you had fun counting. Bye for now.